Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn, and alongside me is Logan Camden from Somebody's Kitchen, who he has inhabited and claimed as his own. Logan's been through a lot. He's out of town. He dislocated his finger today, and then he watched a pretty nasty NBA Finals game, an ugly Game 6, easily the biggest clunker that we've had in what has been a great series. But Logan, clunker or not, this game extends the series and is sending us to an almighty Game 7 of the NBA Finals, something we haven't been treated to since 2016, in which we witnessed one of the greatest basketball games ever played. So always very, very excited to get the opportunity to watch a Game 7. But let's talk first about how Indiana was able to completely dominate this game, Logan, because it ends up a 17-point margin. That is fake. This was a 30-point lead going into the fourth quarter. How were they able to reverse things so dramatically after dropping the last two games and dominate OKC in this one?
Well, they won a few key important categories. They outshoot Oklahoma City from behind the arc by 21 points in this game. There was a huge discrepancy for the majority of this one where Oklahoma City is just stonewalled with 1 3-point made. They forced the Oklahoma City Thunder into a ton of turnovers in this one too. SGA really had a tough time in this game in a big way, and they turned those into a bunch of points off of turnovers. And they did a great job of getting out on the fast break and getting buckets. And they beat them on the glass. Like, in a lot of ways, the Thunder were flat as hell tonight, too, Carson. I mean, this feels really similar to the Nuggets series where, not that Oklahoma City feels comfortable or anything, because I really think Indiana turned up the intensity, and you got to give them a ton of credit. You get contributions from a lot of different characters today in this game. Siakam, Haliburton, Toppin, McConnell. You know, it's the usual suspects, but everybody is chipping in this game. And it's cliche, but Oklahoma City really felt like they didn't bring it tonight, man. Indiana brought it, and they had more on the table, right? Like, their back is against the wall. They want to force this thing to 7. I'm really impressed with them, but I thought they turned up the defensive intensity tonight. They did a really good job of forcing Oklahoma City into bad shots and to a lot of bad, uncharacteristic turnovers. And that's where I've been most impressed with Indiana throughout these playoffs and these finals, Carson, is their ability to defend and their ability to adjust and to bring that pressure and that intensity, man. That has been the knock on this team. And I thought the way they defended Shai in the pick and roll was phenomenal. And this defense was just super impressive tonight. And they shot the hell out of the ball, man. That's really what this team does at a high level. Both of these teams, you know, they're 3-D, but Indiana really brought it tonight, man. I hate it. It's cliche, but it did feel like that, man. I've been disappointed with Oklahoma City in a few games in this playoff run, man, with this kind of effort they've brought.
This was definitely the most disappointing game of the postseason for the Thunder. This game was the most disappointed I've been with any team. I thought that this was way, way, way below OKC's standard in a number of ways, but Indiana also played a really good game. And as you said, Logan, they won all the key margins specifically. Talked about this a bunch coming into this series, but OKC and Indiana were the two best teams in basketball throughout the playoffs at dominating the transition margin and dominating the turnover margin. And if Indiana was going to find a way to win this series, it was going to be really important that they could find a way to dictate those two margins. Well, in this game, it wasn't even remotely close. If you look at the first half, which is really when this was a game, Indiana 16-2 in points off turnovers. Indiana 16-3 in fast break points. And then, as you mentioned, 27-3 in points from beyond the arc. So I thought that they did an incredible job of protecting the ball offensively while still moving the ball really well and getting the ball to the corners, creating those high percentage efficient threes, getting out in transition a bunch, and capitalizing a ton off of OKC turnovers. Meanwhile, OKC's offense was just stuck in hell, and I definitely give Indiana's defense some credit for that. I also think it was a disaster of epic proportions for OKC's offense, and a lot of that was just on them failing to execute in a number of ways, but you got to give a ton of credit to Indiana for just being the sharper, smarter, more composed team. in this game. They went down 10-2 early and they did not blink. They just dominated from there on out. And like, yeah, okay, a 10-2 deficit in the first few minutes, that's not a big hurdle to have to overcome. But if you compare it to how OKC responded to adversity in this game, it's significant. And Indiana was missing their open looks early, and then everything started falling, and they trusted their process. You get Hallie back in rhythm, which is massive after he had a really difficult showing in game 5, obviously dealing with what has been officially diagnosed as a calf strain. It wasn't totally clear if he was going to play in this game. My presumption always was that he would, but it was up for debate. He comes out. Not only does he play, I thought that he was really good in this game. The stat sheet isn't going to wow you because this ends up just being such a balanced all-around game from the Pacers. But Hallie made a number of big swing plays in this game. He had 2 big steals in the first half that led directly to transition buckets, including one of the highlights of the playoffs so far, where he feeds Siakam for that massive transition dunk. And he found his 3-ball, man. And that is absolutely huge, because if there's been one area in which Hallie's been surprisingly inconsistent in these playoffs, it's just been as a 3-point shooter, because you know that the scoring volume with him overall is going to come and go, but he comes into this game hovering around 33% from deep in this postseason. He knocks down some big ones, a big step back 3 over Cason Wallace, a deep 3 over Caruso, who's just giving him a little too much airspace. That's really big, because his path to being an effective scorer in this series, in game 7 now, really does rely on that 3-ball. If it's him beating Isaiah Hartenstein and drop coverage, that's a big shot. And then, of course, the floater. He also had a nice floater in this game over Shai. And off of switches, if he is going to beat a Chet Holmgren as a scorer, it is more likely probably going to be him creating space for that step back 3. We've seen him beat Chet with a couple drives. He actually had a really nice possession today where he pump faked the 3, passed out, give and go, cut off a switch versus Chet, and he scored like that. But the 3-ball is really big. It's a bread and butter shot. It's been a little up and down for him, and it was going in this one. And again, he just came out aggressive. This is something that sometimes maybe gets overdone with Hallie, just like the pendulum of aggression. And anytime he plays poorly, people say he wasn't aggressive enough. Anytime he plays well, people say, oh, he was aggressive. But last game, he really was exceptionally passive. And it's not just like, oh, yeah, he was aggressive. It's significant because of the calf strain. And he was actually able to get a step. Like, he didn't really look hampered to me in this game, whereas last game, he just wasn't really able to involve himself in the offense. He was just kind of floating through that game. Much better in this one. I thought it was a really good performance from him, and I thought it was a really good all-around offensive performance from Indiana through 3 quarters. And then, you know, the bench mob comes in and they kind of lay an egg in the 4th. But when this was an actual basketball game, I thought that they played really well offensively.
I thought you got a lot of contributions from a lot of guys, and we'll talk about them. But you bring up the aggressiveness with Hallie, and that's where I was really proud of Haliburton in this game, especially mentally, Carson. He wasn't hitting shots early. Like, he was taking 3s off the dribble, and he took a floater or 2, and he was missing. And they were close shots. Like, they were in and out, but he didn't let that deter him from staying aggressive. And once he got it going, everything started clicking. And he didn't let it get him down on the defensive end either. It's really easy to fall into those patterns. And Indiana's the most resilient team in basketball, man. Like, I think that I just want to give a ton of credit to Hallie for staying aggressive in this team. Like, you talked about their cold start, man. Like, at any point, Indiana, it's just so funny to me, man. I'm not surprised anymore. We act like Indiana's going to hang their heads or something. Poor me, poor me. This team's legit, man. They've got a ton of fight in them, and it's just funny some of the ways we talk about them. But Hallie, to me specifically, was really mentally strong in this one, and I was proud of him that he didn't let some early misses stop him from staying aggressive and making things happen. But like you said, dude, a lot of hands are in the middle of the table doing work in this one, man. Obi Toppin, I thought was phenomenal again, and has just had the 3-ball going in a big way in these finals. Carson, it's like he turned a corner in the conference finals, hit a couple of big shots, and boom, he has just been in rhythm. He's at 39% in these finals, man. Like, that's really impressive for Obi with 13 points per game. He's their 3rd leading scorer. I thought McConnell, once again, was excellent off the bench, and he's been excellent in this series. And finally, we see Andrew Nembhard step up to the plate and do some deal some damage. Like, he was a big swing factor for me, and why I thought that the Pacers had we're going to be we're going to be good in this series because you could count on him, and he finally delivered. All hands on deck, man. It's the story of this Indiana Pacers team, and I have to mention Siakam, too. He's the other guy who I thought consistently, when this Indiana Pacers offense has been stuck in the mud early in basketball games, has just been so crucial to getting them going, and was again in this one with aggression, high-level mismatch attacking, and just getting downhill and getting to his spots, man. He's been excellent. He's got a bucket off of an offensive rebound where he just steps into a shot early in this game. He's got one off the dribble in the mid-range where he's so good, and a few going to the rim. But it really is all hands on deck, man, every single night with Indiana, and I thought that was the same in this one.
Absolutely, it was. And specifically with Siakam, man, I went and I pulled all the numbers that we've seen from different stars who have faced this OKC defense throughout the playoffs. And we've talked about this a fair bit already, but overwhelmingly, you are seeing like a major drop off in production from these stars when they go up against OKC. Your average star, and that's the top two player in each series, versus OKC over the first three rounds, was seeing a drop of more than 3 points per game, about 2 assists per game. Their turnover numbers were going up. Their true shooting percentage was dropping by more than 5. The one guy amidst this sea of red and minuses and numbers getting worse, who's got some green and some pluses, is Pascal Siakam, whose production through the first 5 games of this series was basically exactly his regular season averages. That's a huge accomplishment against this OKC defense. And this wasn't a remarkable game from him, but you mentioned, I mean, when they are down early, who is it who steps up with that mid-range jumper at the end of the shot clock off an offensive rebound? It's Siakam. Then who is it who gets an and one in transition? It's Siakam. So he is always there as that stabilizing force. We certainly saw it in the fourth quarter of last game when he tried to will them back into that one. And in this game, like, it wasn't so much the mismatch attacking. It wasn't so much his one-on-one scoring craft that we know is so impressive. It's like transition opportunities where he's phenomenal in the full court. A smart cut, dominating on the offensive glass. I mean, 13 boards, 5 offensive in this one. And the jumper has just been going for him throughout this postseason, and 0 turnovers. So he was super efficient, effective. But it really is the collective contributions. And like the guy who I look at as the third most impactful offensive player for Indiana in this series is without a question TJ McConnell, who just comes in and swings these game dudes. You look at his minutes tonight, 12 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals. Like, come on, man. He gets into the paint at will. And this is something that I talked about wanting to see from OKC, and it's an adjustment that they've made. They're staying home more on his drive, so they aren't collapsing as aggressively and allowing him to just create a bunch of shots for teammates when he gets into the paint, but he's still been beating them as a scorer. Like, he's just raining short jumpers over these guys because he can get 10 feet from the basket anytime he wants. And he has been so ridiculously good on those shots, Logan. He is 35 of 55 on 2-pointers outside of 8 feet in these playoffs. That's 64%. Those are the shots that supposedly have been abandoned. Those are the shots that are generally the least efficient. This guy is giving you layup efficiency on them over an entire postseason. And it's not just the offense. Some of the effort plays. I mean, 9 rebounds for him in this game. He steals an offensive board from Hartenstein. He steals a loose ball from Hartenstein. He steals a pass from Jalen Williams in the backcourt that leads to a wide open Obi Toppin 3. He strips Shai on a double, like, over and over again. This guy's making impact plays on both sides of the ball, comes in his stints, and just changes the dynamics of the game, changes the complexion of the game. Obviously a masterpiece last game. This one, not quite as special, but pretty damn good, and it does lead to a win. And you mentioned Nembhard. Like, it wasn't crazy volume from him, but another really good defensive performance, and he set a super high bar for himself on that side of the ball in this series. And then just very efficient offensively. Knocks down a couple corner threes, pivotally beat Chet on a switch, got by him to the rim. And Obi, as you said, I mean, 4 of 7 from 3, again, 20 points. The guy just continues to make big shots, give you some timely cuts and finishes at the rim. So absolutely, offensively, it was a really nice, clean performance from Indiana, taking such great care of the basketball, keeping OKC out of transition, not giving them any opportunities for live ball turnovers. This was the first game all year in which OKC did not have a steal in the first half. But I do think the story of this game is more so the other side of the ball. And I do want to give Indiana's defense credit for that. I thought it was a smart adjustment from them to actually bring less pressure in this one, because we saw that pressure lead to some really good results for them in games 3 and 4, where it kind of caught OKC off guard and they were able to deny Shai the ball some more and just wear him down, picking up 94 feet and sometimes even steal inbounds. Like, they were able to take the OKC offense out of rhythm. Then game 5, I thought OKC had a lot of good counters for that full court pressure. I thought they were setting really high screens and they were just asking their defensive players, Indiana was, to cover too much ground when Shai and Jada were both committed to getting downhill. So it felt like OKC kind of figured that out. This one, they dialed back the pressure and they nullify the effect of some of those counters that OKC had schemed up, and they packed the paint and really just kind of confounded OKC's offense, and specifically Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I thought was just absolutely dreadful in this game. Logan, what did you make of his performance?
I mean, I thought this was the worst game that he's played in the finals thus far, and maybe the playoffs in totality. I mean, the turnovers were out of control. The first half specifically was horrendous, and I liked what they did, man. Like, them throwing extra bodies at him, but in different ways. And, Shai splits a couple of the pick and rolls, and he gets fouled, and he gets some of the counting numbers, but was reckless with the basketball, and I thought was really bad playmaking in this one, where he did not do a good job of kicking out to his teammates. I know you made we kind of disagreed on the level he was at playmaking the other game, where he had 35 points and no assists. Like, I did put some of that on his teammates, and granted, 0 assists, really playing selfishly. But this one I thought was inexcusable, man. I thought he was really selfish, and like I said, this is the worst I think he's played in these playoffs thus far, man. It really was him, and then nobody else got going. I'm really disappointed with the level that Chet's been at in this series, too. The collective shooting of this team in general, man. Like, but Shai's the guy that you trust, and he was bad in this one, man. I thought their attentiveness to him, but specifically like how they defended him out of the pick and roll, was really, really good in this one. And he's got to be way better, man. Shai did not. This is way down from an MVP level, man. And I don't know. It felt like OKC kind of gave up after the first half too, dude. This one was done early.
No, absolutely they gave up. And I thought that was extremely disappointing from them, but nothing was going anywhere close to right. I mean, this was a complete disaster for their offense. A number of season lows for them. 91 points is their fewest in a game all year. 3 assists in the first half. That is tied for the second fewest by any team in a half this entire season. And it's not even that much of an outlier in this series. Like, when OKC's offense has struggled, it's been because they have completely stopped moving the ball. This is their 4th half with 6 assists or fewer in this series. They only had 2 other such halves this entire year. So I thought that their offensive process was really bad. They fell into all their worst tendencies. They stopped putting Hallie in actions, which I really didn't understand, because I thought in the first quarter, Shai didn't really play well at any point in this game, but the couple of easy drives that he did get were targeting Hallie out of pick and roll, making him defend. And then they just stopped doing that. And it's like, not only is it always a good idea to make the opposing team's best offensive player, who is one of their weaker defenders, work on that side of the ball, when he's got a calf strain, even more so. And I just didn't think that they were smart or deliberate about attacking him at all. And this is like an absolute F minus Shai game. I did think that there was a lot of parallels between this one and game 4. The difference is he didn't pull that big time clutch scoring out of a hat in this one. And the turnovers particularly were horrific, but I thought it was a lot of the same stuff with stopping the ball, settling for tough one-on-one offense, just even worse in this one, just more out of control. I mean, barreling his way into packed paints and just completely befuddled by double teams, man, like truly, really struggling to protect the ball, not finding his teammates whatsoever. So 8 turnovers for Shai. This is a guy who we praise as being one of the best superstars in basketball at protecting the ball. And this is tied for the most turnovers he has in a game all year. And it came in only 31 minutes and 3 quarters of basketball. So just a terrible, terrible game from him. I mean, truly melting down offensively and not getting anybody else involved. And then, yeah, it doesn't help when also nobody else can knock down a shot. And pretty deep into this game, OKC was 2 of 17 from 3. But again, they're not having those good 3-point looks manufactured for them by Shai. It's just so disappointing to see him revert to this when, like, Game 5, he was phenomenal. Game 5 was one of the best passing games of his career, where he's hitting all the right pressure points. He is making some beautiful kick-out passes with anticipation. He's locked into the exact right mindset. And then sometimes it just feels like he goes through stretches where he doesn't trust his teammates, where he's just like, okay, I'm going to force my way through this.
You're reading my mind. Yeah.
And it's ugly.
Agree.
Like, the best version of Shai is always when he is, yes, scoring with volume and efficiency, but that's like a given. His ceiling is highest and his impact is greatest when he's being selfless, when he is aware of how to create for his teammates. And there was just none of that in this game. I mean, good Lord, it was ugly.
Well, and then when they're doing that, they can't gang up on you in the paint because they have to respect your teammates. And I get guys weren't making shots, but again, some of that is a byproduct of Shai slowing the offense down and them also just giving possessions away a ton in this one. I'm really disappointed with him. And that was the exact point I was going to make, Carson. It's like he phases them out and just doesn't trust them. Sorry if y'all can hear the dog in the background. She's DB right now. She's pressed. I'm just reverting to old tendencies, not trusting his teammates. This Oklahoma City offense is at its best when he is creating the initial advantage. And even last game, I didn't think the numbers fully reflected how great of a playmaking game it was for Shai because he's creating initial advantages. He's getting it to the guy. There's another swing where, they're hockey assists. Maybe they're not being recorded. There was none of that in this one. And like I said, that to me is when this offense is at its best, when it's flowing, when the ball is moving, when it's selfless. That's when it's easy. And they got none of this. They got sped up. They got out of control early. They got uncomfortable, and Indiana exploited it and forced them into a lot of bad shots, bad tendencies, and bad turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, he just seems legitimately blindsided by some of these double teams where he's posting up at the elbow and, like, just has no awareness that TJ McConnell is coming, tries to sneak a pass past Aaron Nesmith that just, like, he can't possibly make. And then even when he does start trying to pass, they're inaccurate, Isaiah Hartenstein's rolling to the basket and he just fires a bad pass to him. Next possession, I kind of see the vision with him trying to find a little dump off to Kaysen Wallace, but Kaysen wasn't ready for it. The pass wasn't super accurate, just in every possible way. And then there are the shots that he's just straight up forcing against the double team. I truly did not like a single thing that Shai did in this game. And also, it wasn't a good defensive game from him. And it wasn't a good defensive game from OKC as a whole. And that was really disappointing too, because the offense is the main culprit here. But again, 0 steals in the first half, and then zero pressure applied.
Transition defense was bad in this one too.
Particularly the most embarrassing stretch for them was early in that third quarter, when you actually have an opportunity to claw your way back into the game because you and Indiana are having a straight up shit off. I mean, that was probably the ugliest 4 minutes of the playoffs. Nobody scored for 4 minutes. They missed 14 straight shots combined. But, like, even though Indiana is missing in that stretch, OKC feels like the more aimless team. OKC is just kind of like drifting through these possessions, and Shai is settling for tough jumpers. And then when they finally do allow Indiana to get some points on the board, it's like easy transition layups. It's nobody getting back, and Miles Turner just getting a straight rim run for a dunk. And then it's a transition layup on the very next possession too. Just so disappointing. And it felt to me like OKC oscillated between basically not trying in the second half and trying to get everything back at once. Like, never did it feel like this was a composed, hey, we're going to chip our way back into this one. We're going to play smart, controlled offensive possessions. We're going to grind our asses off defensively and force turnovers and do what we do best. It was like every time they touched the ball, again, like, you have some bad Shai ISOs and forced shots, but then like a number of just out of control transition possessions. Aaron Wiggins has a bad turnover. And then they're like, oh shit, we're down 20 plus. So we know that basketball, we have to erase this deficit with a bunch of threes. And they're taking a lot of like quick one pass catch and shoot three looks that are pretty well contested. I mean, just so ugly. And then the wheels really did come off, and there's no excusing that. Like, you come to the brink of an NBA title, and this is the performance you deliver. And yes, you're outclassed. Indiana was just better. A lot of that is on you for some just tactical issues and just bad performance in the first half. But to then basically give up and wave the white flag in the third quarter. I just think that's so inexcusable from a team who we praise for, right, being such great competitors, fighting so hard. Indiana truly does take the cake in that regard. Like, there is not a game in this postseason where they have gotten their asses handed to them like this. And that's an accomplishment. Like, if you just go through, OKC lost by 40 in game 3 to Minnesota. And this game I thought was basically every bit as bad because it was 30 after 3 quarters and the stakes were so much higher. But everybody basically has gotten destroyed at some point. OKC destroys Memphis. They destroy Denver. There's been a lot of flat out blowouts. The closest that it's come for Indiana was game 3 against the Cavs when they lost by 22. They've played 22 games in these playoffs and their biggest margin of defeat is 22. That's an accomplishment. OKC, in my book, got beaten by way more than 22 tonight. It was a 30-plus point loss, and it was inexcusable.
I mean, it's a bad character trait to have, and Oklahoma City has shown it to us a few times. Obviously they have the cushion in most of these.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that. I think that this is easily the most disappointing effort.
I'm just saying, when you compare it to Indiana, it's like when we see Indiana face adversity, they don't fall down. They play harder and they play composed. We've seen Oklahoma City kind of fold in a way that Indiana doesn't. I'm just saying it's not a good – I don't like seeing that. Indiana never gives up. They're like John Cena,
sure.
Carson.
No, this is true. I think Indiana's the gold standard. I would just say also, like, OKC has had a lot of big responses throughout these playoffs, going down 2-1.
They've responded. What? They still haven't lost back-to-back games in these playoffs, correct?
Exactly. So I want to give them credit for that. But just in this specific game, I thought that it was a wildly disappointing performance from them. I'm just saying,
we saw this we've seen this kind of twice now against Indiana. We saw it against Minnesota, and we saw it a few times.
We haven't seen this twice against Indiana. There wasn't another game in Indiana where they quit.
You're right. I mean, I don't know. I guess I just lumped game 1 in there with just them shitting their bed, but they didn't play a bad game. They just shit their pants.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were bad closing that game. I also thought Indiana did a lot to take that game, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about they quit. Oklahoma City quit in this game, and that sucks in game 6 of the finals.
There's 2 games in the Denver series where it felt like that, and then the Minnesota game.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. There were no games in the Denver series. Every loss they had in the Denver series was super close. They didn't quit in any of those games. It's this in Minnesota game 3. What? How can you disagree? There's no argument to be made that they quit in any of the Denver games.
I feel like this is something that has happened with Oklahoma City that hasn't happened with Indiana. And that to me is just, it's concerning, man. I'd like to see
the Denver games. They lost by 2 at the last second. They lost by 9 down to the wire, and they lost by 12 in a game that was very competitive deep into the fourth quarter.
All right, maybe I'm bugging.
You are bugging.
My fault, player. My fault.
It was terrible, though. Regardless, like, I don't think that you can say that it's a pattern or a trend for OKC whatsoever, but it happening once is more than it's happened to Indiana, and that's inexcusable in game 6 of the finals. I do think you look at the offense first and foremost, and that's where they have to be way better, and that does really all start with Shai, but also the supporting cast does have to be better. And Chet has really struggled offensively. I'm putting my hand up. I said I thought Chet would have a really good offensive series. I do think he's had quite a phenomenal defensive series, but not really this game. I would say this was probably his weakest, least impactful defensive game. He never has a weak defensive game. But offensively, man, first of all, he just misses a wide open dunk off of the beautiful lob from Isaiah Hartenstein. And that's their money play, man. You get it to Ihart off the short roll at the free throw line. Chet perfectly times the cut. They've done that so many times this year, and he just misses. And that's where it's like, is there a level of nerves here? I do kind of think so. But also, I do think that there are some basketball reasons that Chet has struggled so much in this series offensively. Refs are allowing a lot of physicality on his drives and his attempts around the rim. And I mean, particularly, I went back and rewatched game 5, and I did think that there were a couple of pretty clear fouls on him that didn't get called, but you have to be able to play through that. It's the playoffs. It's physical. Chet really hasn't been able to do that. I thought this was another game where he struggled. Also, Indiana has been really swiping at the ball with their hands, and when Chet brings it down, he hasn't done a very good job of protecting it. And then also, he's just going up against Miles Turner's length, and that's difficult for him to finish against. So some issues in the paint. And then really the big problem is that the guy just can't hit a jump shot right now. And I always say that I want Chet to be aggressive, and I do. But there are some instances in this series where it feels like he's like, okay, I just have to get a shot up this possession. And he's like forcing up a mid-range jumper. There's one possession where he does a great job getting an offensive rebound. And I think that OKC can hold for the last shot of the quarter. And instead, Chet, with like 10 seconds on the clock, puts up this contested turnaround. And you're like, brother, you haven't made that shot in weeks. You can't be going to that right now. And then the big issue is just that he can't hit a three off the catch. He's 2 of 16 from deep. He gets blocked on a three again by Miles Turner. This is a trend that we've talked about that has been exposed throughout these playoffs. Got to speed up that release because he is just not a guy who you trust or who feels comfortable shooting threes in those tight windows against contests right now. He's been blocked on multiple threes in this postseason. So that's got to get better. And then you have another possession where like he just travels because he really has no high post game. Kind of the only post game he has, if you can even call it that, is if he like gets a deep catch against a smaller player. And then he's got good balance and body control and footwork and whatnot down around the basket. But if he just is like with the ball on the elbow, 12 feet from the bucket, he's really not a threat to score in that position. And he just kind of got caught up in one of those spots and gave you a turnover. So really bad from him. I do feel like a lot of this is just going to be about the 3-point shot. And then it's about him finding his opportunities to be an impactful offensive player. Obviously, transition is a spot that you look at and he has had some success. And he's also just got to finish better. Like Chet was so aggressive around the rim for 3 rounds of these playoffs. We talked about it. The guy was just going up and punching everything. And all of a sudden, he isn't asserting himself around the rim at that same level. And again, he is exposing the ball to smaller players and he is struggling some with physicality and length. And it's just been a worst case scenario for him offensively. And they need him to be better. I don't think they need him to be great offensively in game 7, but they need him to be better than this.
Damn right. I mean, dude, he's giving you 11 points per game on 44% true shooting in this series. I mean,
3 terrible offensive games out of 6.
Yeah, you highlighted it before this series as one of the keys. And, I mean, whose secondary stars are going to play better? That is a thing you could say in any series. But for the Thunder, that's been a bigger deal than it has been for other teams. And Chet has been horrible, dude. I mean, Carson, who would you rather have taken an open 3 right now in this series? Chet Holmgren or Obi Toppin?
I thought you were going to say Chet or Miles Turner, and I was going to say neither, bro. I'm good. We have 2 centers, by the way, shooting in the 30s from the field in this series.
Yeah, Miles Turner has not been – I'm going to
1 of 9 in this game.
I'm going to just keep my mouth shut on Miles Turner.
I saw somebody say that if Chet and Miles Turner were playing one-on-one in their backyard, they would close the curtains. And I thought, that's a pretty good point, man. Neither one of them has been able to create any decent offense against the other.
What do you think? What should be the thing that Chet focuses on next, Carson, to grow his scoring arsenal? What should be the next, he's been a good shooter. We think he's got good touch. Like, to make him just more consistent, what's the next step for him as a scorer?
I think there are a number of marginal improvements that he needs to make, and it's a lot of stuff that I've already touched on. But to me, probably the biggest thing is just the mechanics and the speed of that release and his consistency as a 3-point shooter. Because even though he's 37, 38% in the regular season, both postseasons, he hasn't shot it really close to that. And he did change his mechanics before this year, but he's got to speed up that release so that he can be more confident shooting those threes against contests, which are super important in the playoffs, especially playing off of a guy like Shai, who defenses are going to try to load up on and pack the paint. And then when he's not really trusting that shot, there are a number of possessions where he gets run off the line, and then that's where he can start to settle for these mid-range jumpers that just aren't as effective. So I think that's part of it. It would be nice to see him develop something of a post game, but with his lack of strength, I don't think that that's ever really going to be a significant part of his game. He does have to find a way to attack mismatches, and that feels like the way to do it. But I do think part of it is just like the consistent aggression. That's as a finisher around the rim. I do think that he is a uniquely skilled ball handler, driver, his body control, his speed for being 7'1", like that stuff is all really impressive. But he's just struggling to weaponize it in this series. And again, is forcing the issue some downhill and just not getting good looks. So I think there's a number of areas in which Chet can and will improve offensively. I also think his entire rhythm got disrupted this season. The guy who we saw offensively to start this year, before the guy broke his pelvis, we haven't seen return in any consistent stretch. And I don't really think that's a coincidence. I think with a full off season, a lot of this stuff will get better. And he's a super young player. And he's a big man trying to do perimeter stuff. And that always, I think, takes some time no matter how talented you are. But it's been really bad offensively in this series. Really ugly.
The injury is a great point. I mean, we haven't seen Chet look anything close to that consistently since he came back from injury. I'm just disappointed that the shot hasn't translated, because I've considered Chet to be like an elite shooter of the basketball, and I mean, he just hasn't been consistent whatsoever from behind the arc, man.
The other thing is just, I'd love a little more arc on that jumper, because he shoots lasers, and sometimes he really leaves them flat. And I think that's part of the issue with the inconsistency of his shot. Yeah, I mean, he's now under 30% from deep in these playoffs after he was 26% from deep in last year's playoffs. So yeah, this theoretical elite stretch big hasn't been that in the postseason.
Do you think OKC could do anything else, like involving him more as a ball handler, to change like up the look of their offense, or just like, I don't know, try something different, man? Like the offense got really stale tonight, in my opinion. I'm just trying to think of ways to juice it up.
Yeah, the one thing that I think Chet has actually done a great job of throughout this series is cutting and crashing the offensive glass. And I think that, like, Shai missed him a number of times in game 4, for example. Obviously, he misses a dunk off a great cut tonight, but I think that's an area where they have to be looking for him, where they can manufacture those shots for him at the rim, and there's not that burden of self-creation. But, you know, they've drawn up some stuff for him. Like early on in games, we saw it last game very early on. They had a handoff that Hartenstein ran, and that was able to get Chet a drive to the rim. But at this point, I'm not force feeding offense to Chet. Like, I just think, yes, he has that potential as a driver, but for the most part, I'm like, Chet, if you want to be aggressive in transition, go for it. We want you cutting hard. We want you confidently shooting threes off the catch. I'm not like, okay, we're going to put the ball in your hand a ton, because when it comes to him handling more, like, yeah, he's a uniquely skilled ball handler for 7'1", but that pressure can still give him some fits for sure. And a lot of the time where he is handling on the perimeter in this series, he just ends up turning his back to the basket, and then it's just, J-Dub, come get it. Shai, come get it. Let's just turn this into a handoff. So I don't think that it's really going to come down to like scheming a bunch more touches for him. I think it's going to come down to him being better with his touches. Because he hasn't had a lack of opportunity. The guy took 15 shots last game. He made 4 of them.
I agree with that for sure. I'm just saying, I think they could do J-Dub, you know, giving him a screen, or SGA, you know, just to switch some things up, man.
Yeah, I talked about this. I like the idea of J-Dub or Shai screening for him off ball, or vice versa. And then you put the defense in a position where they have to choose, are we going to switch this and maybe concede a mismatch to Shai or J-Dub? Maybe you lose either one of those guys on a cut or breaking free above the 3-point line. Like, that's an area where I think Chet can be effectively utilized in tandem with the biggest offensive threats on the team. But it wouldn't be the biggest focal point for me if I'm OKC at this point.
The one guy, if you're going to be encouraged about something from this game for OKC, I think it would be the play of J-Dub. I mean, I thought he looked really good in this one too.
Yeah, I think J-Dub's locked in. Holy shit, he was minus 40 tonight. That's unbelievable. That's
crazy.
A crazy number. But yeah, I think that he knows what he needs to do. I mean, he is committed to getting downhill over and over again. He's been doing a great job in this series. His jumper's also just not going. He's been struggling from deep, so that can be a swing factor. But I agree. I think J-Dub is playing quite well. Yes, Chet has to be better. And yes, they have to shoot better. But I do really feel like, looking to game 7, everything starts with Shai, and it starts with the defense, because you can talk about the 3-point shooting being a concern, and it has been, and it's been inconsistent.
Hey, Carson,
but yeah,
not to cut you off, that's actually the worst plus minus in a single finals game ever.
Wow.
How about that?
Kind of unbelievable. Shout out to J-Dub for that. Wow, that's rough. But I say that everything starts with Shai and the defense, because I do think that you understand that the 3-point shooting can be a concern. It's been up and down throughout these playoffs. But a big part of the problem in game 4 and game 6 is they're not getting decent looks from 3, because Shai isn't creating those looks. I think that generally with this team, everything falls into place when they reach their defensive ceiling and they're wreaking havoc and they're dominating the possession battle, probably because they're forcing a bunch of turnovers. And then Shai steps up as an actual great offensive engine. for you. And that is basically all going to come down to his ability to play make more effectively. I want to see them targeting Hallie more in actions. There was a fair bit of Shai ISO in this game, as opposed to just straight up pick and roll, and him like calling off screens a number of times. I didn't really like that because it ended up in him settling for a number of kind of tough shots, but nothing was really working for him in this one. But let's see if we can get back to some of that high pick and roll where we get them a runway. Let's see if we can force Miles Turner to defend 30 plus feet out from the basket, closer to up at the level. And then Shai can get downhill and he can score, draw a foul, and create for others. Like OKC has had some great stretches offensively in this series, and then they've had some really bad stretches offensively. And so much of that has been tied to the play of Shai. So that's a big thing. And then defensively, again, they have an ability to like not just set the tone, but dictate the game in a way that nobody else in basketball does. And that's been another huge swing factor for them in this series. So there's no chance. I don't think that they're changing the starting lineup again at this point. I think that they're just going to roll with the double bigs. I thought Hartenstein actually played quite well tonight. And I thought that he was really good last game too. I thought that he was much better than Chet tonight, but I think that you have to hope that Chet is better offensively, because defensively, you know that like your best look is absolutely with Chet at the 5. I think that we have seen them really do a great job switching everything with Chet at the 5. And that's where you give Hallie so many issues as a scorer, because he's struggled to consistently beat Chet in that matchup. You know, he's gotten some wins, but Chet has gotten a lot of wins as well. And that can just sort of force their offense to stagnate, take away Hallie's ability to play versus drop where he's so comfortable, which he is going to get to against Hartenstein. And then again, their whole defense is just faster with Chet at the 5. So if you are going to go with iHeart, I think it's with him as the lone big. I'd really like to limit the double big minutes if I'm Dagnall. I don't think he'll go away from that as the starting lineup, but we see even this game, he's willing to pivot off of that for the starting lineup in the second half. So I think if OKC plays up to their potential, they're the better team. And to me, playing up to their potential starts with Shai. It starts with the defense. And then the shooting, absolutely a factor. J-Dub, absolutely a factor. But I'm confident in J-Dub right now. I feel like if OKC does what they've done best all year, which is have the MVP and one of the great scorers and great offensive players ever, and an all-time defense, then they should win this game. And neither of those components played anywhere up to their potential in this one.
I don't have a ton to add, man. That was well said.
No, thank you, man.
I completely agree.
So is that your feeling going into Game 7, that OKC will win? Oh.
I mean, here, I'm going to take the Thunder because they're at home, but it's one game. It's like it's 50-50. It's flip a coin. I mean, like, I'm not confident either way. Like, I just don't doubt the Pacers anymore and their ability to do it. I have a level of faith with Oklahoma City that I have built up more than I do with Indiana, and I think Shai is the second best player on the planet, and I think this is a historically great defense. But could I see Chet having another down game? Could I see OKC having a bad stretch with some turnovers again? Could I see... Yeah, I mean, I could just see it playing out any kind of way, man. I'm not confident, like, either way. I think this is very, very close. It's one game. It's Game 7, but I am going to take the Thunder at home. But I'm not, like, super confident in either way. Indiana's legit, man. Indiana's legit.
Well, I mean, there's no question about that. Second best team in basketball since
it's just
January
like
1st.
I could
I've said it a million times.
Indiana's got a great basketball team. And the key difference to me between both of them, we've praised Indiana throughout these playoffs for it. It is the fact that they have been able to defend so well as a team, and that has been their big character flaw, but it's the fact that they've got so many reliable offensive players and so many guys who can contribute on a game-to-game basis. That's a major advantage they have over Oklahoma City. There's just so many guys that you trust more offensively down their roster right now than you do for Oklahoma City. I'm excited, man. This finals has been awesome. Like, this finals has been, even though this was probably the worst game of the series thus far, it's been awesome, man. It's been thrilling.
You can't deny that the lows for OKC have been low in this series, and this was as low as it's gotten. But when I just, in my mind's eye, picture how I truly think that Game 7 is going to go, I think that it does basically come down to OKC doing much better in the areas that I laid out. When they have needed to throw their best punch defensively, throughout these playoffs. They've done it, and it has been absolutely suffocating. You think about the fourth quarter of game 4, where they hold Indiana to 17 points. You think about what they do in game 5 with 15 steals and 12 blocks. You think about what they did in game 7 to Denver. You think about what they did in game 5 to Minnesota. Like, when they have fully put their foot down and said, we are not going to let you score, we are going to dictate the game, we are going to turn you over, speed you up, be physical. It's just an incredibly great punch that they can throw. And Shai, for the most part, has been able to lock in. Like, I've done a lot of praising of him for getting better as series go along, where he's got some clunkers in games 1 and game 3. But for the most part, in games 4 through 7 of series, he's been excellent. This series has kind of been the exception to that, where game 4, for the most part, I didn't like his game. Game 5, I thought he was incredible, but game 6, he went out there and played a complete dud in this one. That being said, I've seen him flip the switch enough times, and I've seen OKC flip the switch enough times. And throughout these playoffs, when they have gotten to a low point, they have responded in a huge way. They did it against Denver from down 2-1, and then they had to go out and win a game 7 in that one, and they did it. Minnesota, it wasn't as much adversity, but they played a terrible game 3, had to withstand a hell of a punch in game 4 and won that game, and then destroyed them in game 5. This series, they did it again, going down from 2-1 to flip it to a 3-2 lead. So I do have more faith in them. And of course, I mean, Indiana is great, dude. We can say it a million times. I just think it's so obvious. If you're still somebody who is like on the Pacers don't deserve to be here train or anything remotely close to that, put down the crack pipe, man. You know, get off the ayahuasca. Like, their resume speaks for itself at this point. They're fantastic. They still don't have the ceiling that OKC does. And I think a lot of this is going to start with OKC's ability with Chet at the 5 for a lot of minutes, maybe not starting that way, probably not starting that way, to really give Hallie and potentially Siakam some trouble as scorers and speed them up and force them into some turnovers. I think that's where they start to win the game in their path to game 7. If Indiana wins game 7, I think we know what it comes down to. I think it comes down to basically Shai not being good enough as an offensive engine. OKC probably struggles shooting. Chet probably struggles. And maybe OKC doesn't throw their best defensive punch. But I think that we are going to get a hell of a defensive punch from them in game 7.
Indiana shoots the lights out. Tyrese gets going as a scorer. Siakam dominates. And they get contributions from everybody down the roster. I mean, it's a very simple formula. I don't know, man. I'm confused by the level that Shai has been at and what we've gotten out of him, just decision-making wise. It's just puzzling by a player that I hold in such high regard and who's been so consistent throughout this season and throughout these playoffs. It's just a really weird game from him. In this one, in a really disappointing game, but
it is.
I think Indiana's floor is higher, man, and that's what's playing with me, dude. I know that I've just seen this a few times from OKC in this series, but it's game 7. It's the most important game. I think it's going to come down to the wire, man. Like, I think it's going to be really, really close down into the fourth quarter, but I trust OKC a little more, and I expect them to be better, much better defensively on Hallie, and I think they should attack him a lot more offensively too, man. Yeah. I think Dagnall's got to do a much better job of getting this team composed and doing deliberate things. Like you said, dude, you said a really good you had a really good word for it earlier. Aimless. It felt purposeless, it felt disjointed, they felt out of sorts. And it's not atypical of a young team, but it's something that I've come to expect more out of with Oklahoma City. And credit to the Indiana defense for speeding them up and doing their thing. I'm going to take OKC, but we're in for a classic. That's crazy, man. We haven't had a game 7 in the finals in 9 years.
9 years.
And I mean, that's it's one of the greatest games ever played.
It was. So we're both taking OKC to win game 7.
Yeah.
If one of these teams wins in a blowout, who do you think it is? You straddling the fence over there.
Well, I'm just saying, no. I'm going to take OKC. I just would feel bad about picking Indiana now when I've picked against Indiana the entire playoffs. It would feel phony.
Have you picked against Indiana the entire playoffs?
Well, I'm just saying, like...
You picked them to beat the Knicks.
I picked them to beat the Knicks. I'm just saying, it's like...
first round.
I picked the Thunder all series long. It would feel strange right now to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to now take Indiana.
Forget about that. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, you did this in the Denver OKC series. You flipped and you said, I think Denver's going to win game 7.
I did
And they
think
made you
Denver was
regret
going
it.
to.
And I think that they have a tendency to make people regret doubting them. That's my thing with OKC.
Well,
it hasn't been the prettiest playoff run, but I think the best team prevails at the end of the day.
I'm not going to switch up. I tend to agree with that. I think they've got a major home court advantage in game 7. I think this defense can play much, much better, and I expect so much more out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This was a abhorrent SGA game.
It was.
Give me OKC, but we're in for a classic, man. I love basketball. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time.
I mean, I'll probably do a whole spiel on this after game 7. Tonight probably isn't the night to do it because this game sucked as a basketball product. But this season, Logan, has been incredible. I mean, how many flagship moments, how many memorable player individual seasons and games and comebacks. Whew. And just the level of basketball has been so high. This is like one that goes down in the books, man. And we're going to end it with a game 7 in the NBA Finals. I can't wait. I'm pulling for a much better game than what we got tonight, regardless of who wins. I posed the question, if somebody wins in a blowout, who is it? Because you were saying you think Indiana's floor is higher. I think not only is OKC the more likely team to win, if there is a blowout, I think OKC pulls
really?
it off.
I can't see.
It starts with a dominant defensive performance.
I can't see Indiana getting blown out.
Yeah, I don't mean blown out by 30. I mean, it's an 18-point game, like halftime, early third quarter, and then it just kind of stays there. I think that starts with the sort of crazy destructive defensive halves that we've seen from OKC in the first half of game 1, the first half of game 2. They just got to hold on, and the offensive process has to be better, and I think that it will be. Let's get to these super chats. Appreciate all you guys donating to the Nerd Sesh Foundation. I appreciate all you guys tuning in to our show, even after kind of a dud of a game 6. But we all know that we got game 7, and that's pretty epic, coming in hot. Brett says, pretty confident. Thunder in 7, different at home. It's a very good point. I mean, just how different the Thunder have been at home.
100%. And they have yet to lose back-to-back games in these playoffs. It would set it's going against the precedent.
I'm pulling up some numbers real quick, Logan, because I tweeted out earlier in the postseason that OKC has the record for point differential in a single postseason at home, and they've only built on that record. They're plus 247. I don't think any other team has been plus 200 in a single postseason at home. They're minus 67 on the road. Like, that's as big a differential as you're going to see, man. They've been way more vulnerable. And I think part of that is young team, right? Defensive team. They feed off the energy of their home crowd. They're more comfortable. I think that is, at the very least, a tiebreaker. And that's where we have seen, again, in these closeout games, the Thunder just go nuclear at home in the last couple rounds. Riley, Tony Bradley, parentheses 7, now has more NBA Finals points than Grayson Allen ever will. Go Heels, go Pacers.
Hell yeah. I hate Grayson Allen. Dirty SOB.
I don't think anybody likes Grayson Allen. Shout out to Tony Bradley. What do we think of the Tony Bradley minutes?
We don't have to shout out Tony Bradley. We actually don't. He had a good, I'll say this, he had a good putback. Nice offensive rebound and bucket, buddy. Mm-hmm. Still too many minutes. He should not be playing basketball.
Got to the line. They don't want you
missed
to know
free throws. Missed 2 free throws.
No, missed 1 free throw. You lying sack of shit. 2 offensive rebounds. I'm just kidding. I'm also opposed to the Tony Bradley minutes. I don't think that he should be playing. I'm all about the small ball 5 minutes for Indiana when Miles Turner is not out there. Amadou says Sam Presti needs to revamp this half-court offense, win or lose. Drafting Topic will go down as one of the biggest blunders of many that he's made. Ooh. So I agree with part 1. I don't agree with part 2.
What do you mean revamp? Like, what do you think Presti needs to do?
I think that they need to go get a legitimate high-level shooter. I think that they need to have gotten Cam Johnson yesterday. They need to have gotten Trey Murphy yesterday. I mean, even as somebody who picked OKC to win the title before the year, picked them throughout the entire year, picked them before the playoffs, picked them in every series, I still wanted them to go out there and get Cam Johnson, because why the fuck not? You have the craziest asset pool in the league. He is such a seamless plug-and-play immediate upgrade for what has been your biggest question mark, that being the consistency of your three-point shooting. Big forward, capable defender. Why not? Or you do it with Trey, who's a capable defender and a wing. Like, that should happen. And then I also do think that they need another ball handler. But that's where I don't agree with the Topic criticism, because that was the exact vision there. The vision was like, okay, what if we got somebody who would actually embrace a bench ball handler role that Josh Giddey apparently was not willing to, and they tried to keep him in the starting lineup for way too long where he just didn't work. Like, I think Topic does have upside there. I also think that Topic is a better talent than Giddey. I think that he is potentially a more imposing scorer. I think he's a much better downhill finisher. I think he's got more shooting potential. He just couldn't play this year. Tough luck. But at the 12th pick, I thought that was very good value considering how weak last year's draft class was. He was a much better talent than that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of hard to judge a guy who hasn't really played. Also, biggest blunder, one, it's kind of hard to make a blunder at the 12th pick, but two, the bar's pretty high for Presti. Like, he doesn't really make a ton of blunders. If he just made any mistake, it would probably be one of his biggest blunders because he's normally pretty perfect.
Yeah, biggest blunder of many that he's made is crazy. Like, this guy traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, drafted J-Dub 12th, drafted Chet Holmgren when he didn't have the number 1 overall pick, signed Aaron Wiggins on like one of the best contracts in basketball, signed Isaiah Joe on a really good contract, traded Josh Giddey, who was a negative for them, for Alex Caruso, who's been a massive plus, signed Isaiah Hartenstein. The guy's done everything right. My only criticism of him would be not being aggressive enough, making a midseason trade, and I still think they probably win the title in spite of that. But regardless, I would like to see them pursue a player in that archetype, a high-volume, elite three-point shooting wing, because I think it just takes them up a level. I think that it prevents them from having some of these lulls that they have had in the playoffs, but also some of it is just on Shai, like especially in this game. That's on Shai. Space African Jesus. I got 2 words for y'all. Game 7, must-see TV. Woo!
Thank you for your donation, Space African Jesus. Yeah. 2 best words in sports.
Let me ask you this, Logan, because I was thinking about the last 2 finals that have gone 7. Which do you think was a better series, 2013 or 2016?
Wow. I think 2016 is one of the greatest ever played. And also just like I just think that game 7's so memorable, man. Like the Draymond game, the ending too, it's just ingrained in my brain. So those are both 2 iconic series. I think 2016 is better.
Incorrect. 2013 definitely better.
Why?
I think 2013 is probably the best final series of all time. 1984 is right up there. But here's the thing.
I think 2016 is the greatest ever.
2016, there were a ton of blowouts, man. I mean, you'll never beat that game 7. At the same time, game 6 of Heat Spurs was like one of the best basketball games I've ever watched. And then they followed it up with an amazing game 7. I feel like it gets lost how tight, intense that game 7 was. It was like tied going into the 4th. It was totally down to the wire. Game 1 of that series was an epic battle. I would take that one. I think that the consistency of the elite, highly contested games was just higher than 2016, where, I mean, you got some total blowouts. I mean, let's go back and look at some of these box scores from the 2016 finals.
I just feel like 2016 has more moments, man.
2013 and 2016 both have a moment that makes a case for the biggest in NBA history. The Kyrie 3, but is the Ray Allen 3 like not an even more pivotal moment? When you consider the Kyrie 3 came with 40 seconds left.
The LeBron chase down block 2.
Yeah, well, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable for sure. But moments, like the difference between 2 all-time great moments and 1 all-time great moment, that's not the difference between a series, in my opinion. I think that the series was better.
There's more to it. It's Cleveland's first championship ever. It's the Warriors being 73-9 and blowing it. I think there's so many storylines in that series.
Definitely storylines. I'm just talking about the basketball. But anyways, I was just thinking about the last 2 series that we've seen go 7. 2 of the best. And now we've got another going 7. And maybe it doesn't have LeBron James out there. Maybe it doesn't have the 73-win Warriors. But these are 2 awesome teams. And I'm very excited to see them duke it out. Boricua says, who is going to be more important in game 7 for the Pacers, Hallie or McConnell?
I mean, both are important. It's definitely Haliburton, though. One, just because I'm more confident in what McConnell is going to give you off the bench, just his baseline. But Haliburton's the leader of this team. I know Siakam has definitely played better in this series than Hallie, but he's this team's best player. And he was imperative in this game, and he's got to be aggressive, and he's got to be engaged and locked in defensively. So, for sure, I mean, Hallie's got to get going. I think he's probably the most important player for the Pacers. Vice versa for OKC. It's pretty simple. I think SGA is the most important player for them in Game 7.
It's definitely Hallie. Really, no question about it. I think that as good as TJ's been, like, that he's only going to play 15 to 20 minutes just because, like, Carlisle's pretty consistent with that. And I thought that he should have played more in game 5 because he was playing so well. But also, like, this guy does treat every shift as if he is only going to play 15 to 20 minutes in the game. So he goes 100 miles an hour every second he's on the floor. That's not sustainable for him playing 30 plus minutes. So Hallie's just going to be on the floor a lot more. And yeah, Hallie's their best player. And their offense is absolutely at its best when Hallie's on the floor and when Hallie is aggressive. But not just aggressive. I mean, when he is consistently touching the ball, ideally generating paint touches, putting the defense in rotation, his ability to initiate that ball movement, get the ball to the corners, get that super fluid Indiana offense that we all love in motion, get those transition opportunities going. Like, he kickstarts so much of that. And so he's the offensive engine. Their offense is 8 points per 100 possessions better with him on the court these playoffs. It's Hallie. TJ's important too, and he's been balling out. JM, OKC is the youngest team in the NBA. Don't trust their young players to show up in game 7 under this pressure. Indiana's playing with house money with a finals MVP. Siakam is a Hall of Famer. Thoughts?
I do think Siakam's a Hall of Famer with a finals MVP. I mean, what he did on that Raptors team, what he's done on this team, and the baseline to get into the basketball Hall of Fame isn't as high, but I think he would stamp his ticket with a finals MVP.
TJ McConnell finals MVP case. What you know about it?
I'm with it. I'm Obi Toppin finals MVP case. I'm with it.
What about power of friendship
Reggie
and
Miller.
collective basketball?
Sorry, this just hit my brain. Reggie Miller actually had a good fit on tonight, man. I wanted to shout out Reggie Miller for the clean unk fit tonight.
Big ups to Reggie, dude. I do love seeing Reggie out there supporting the Pacers.
I do too. He had the yellow Jalen Rose with the yellow shirt today, and he didn't tuck it into his jeans, man. He had it on today.
We were talking about moments. Moment of the playoffs. Obviously, it's one of the Hallie moments. Is it the Knick shot, even though that wasn't a game winner? Because then the point to Reggie and the Reggie point back, God, that was so sick. That was sick.
What do you think about, like JM said, being skeptical of the young players and them under this pressure?
With Chet, I can get it. With J-Dub, I think this guy has answered the call way too many times. I think that we've seen him play actually some of his best in big games, in game 7 against Denver, in game 4 against Minnesota, in game 5 of this series. Like, he has risen to the occasion. And then, like, yeah, there is some youth elsewhere on this roster, but like, it's kind of just really Cason Wallace who's playing important minutes. Aaron Wiggins has massive balls. If anything, I worry about him being overly confident, so I don't worry about his youth, and he might not even play that much. Other than that, it's Lou, it's Hartenstein, it's Caruso, it's guys who actually do have a fair bit of playoff experience. So I don't really worry about the youth itself. Like, I think this is a team that we have seen battle tested a lot in these big clutch spots, and they haven't been perfect, but they have consistently erred on the side of delivering. And that's why they're still standing here, because they've been there with their backs against the wall a couple times and they've stepped up to the plate. So I think they're more talented. I think that they do step up. I think that they play a lot better at home. Indiana is playing with house money. And like, if you were going to ask me who is more likely to be impacted by nerves, it would be OKC, but I don't see that being a big swing factor in this game either way. On the Siakam point, sure, why not? There's just some other guys we got to get in the Hall of Fame too. I always mention it, but Sean Marion's not in the Hall. Amari Stoudemire's in the Hall. But if you have his resume where he's 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, and then you give him a Finals MVP, yeah, throw that guy in there. Why not? We got Bill Bradley in there. We got Calvin Murphy in there. We got Sarunas Marshalonis in there. That's for international stuff. But Basketball Hall of Fame is very inclusive.
And he'd be the spicy MVP.
He would be the spicy MVP. Would have been nice if Hallie got Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
That's what I'm saying, bro. He deserved it. He deserved it.
Bro will not deserve Finals MVP, though, if they do win, unless he goes out with, I don't know, 30 and 15 or something.
I don't know if there's anything. He would have to have a big game like that, like Siakam did in Game 7, but he had a much better series last series, too.
Oh, Siakam had a much better series last series than Hallie in this one? Or are you saying Hallie had a much better series?
No, you got it right.
Yeah. I always know what you're saying, Logan. I pick up everything you're putting down because we are cosmically connected and our brains are linked through Neuralink. Game 7 of the finals. This is what we freaking live for, man. Beautiful, beautiful way to cap off this season. We got to wait a couple days, but we will see you guys on Sunday. I was prepared for the season to be over tonight, man. I thought My feeling was OKC probably wins tonight, game 6. That did not happen at all.
I got to stop player hating. I got to stop player hating the Pacers, man.
I don't think you're hating on the Pacers. I think we've been huge Pacers advocates. I think we've done a lot to spread Pacers awareness and love and Hallie love and Siakam love.
We got one more
Oh,
super
good
chat.
eye.
Shout out to Maui. Shout out to Maui.
SGA lack of playmaking out of double is worrisome.
Yes.
I agree. It was terrible tonight. I mean, dude, what is his assist to turnover ratio between game 4 and this one? 2-13. But then last game he goes out and he gives you 10 assists, and it's not just 10 assists. 8 of them he assisted threes. He had a couple more hockey assists, or no, sorry, he only had 2 turnovers in game 4, but 0 assists.
I mean, dude, in this series, it's almost 1-to-1. It's 4.5 assists per game to 3.8 turnovers per game.
Not good enough. Got to be better.
Not at all.
I think it will.
And I mean, that was
game 7.
That was a big thing about why SGA's season was so impressive. His efficiency this year, his ability to score so many points and be so impactful without turning the ball over.
Literally never seen turnover numbers that low from a player with scoring volume that high. Now we got one more super chat. Spencer says, what's a Murphy or Cam trade look like in OKC deal? So we'll see. I mean, at the midseason point, I had a trade for Cam Johnson mapped out, and I think it was 2 firsts and then matching contracts. Now you have him under control for only 2 full years, but maybe it's still that. So it would probably be 2 firsts, just because if you're OKC, why the hell not give that up? And then I think Kenrich Williams has to be in there. Let me see if I can pull up some contracts that would match. Isaiah Joe is probably in there, because I think you'd rather give up him than Wiggins at this point, and his dollar value is a little bit higher. And then
I mean,
that gets you pretty close right there.
The thing that I would emphasize
is Topich, maybe.
They can kind of throw whoever or whatever assets they need to in a deal because they have such an abundance of future first-round picks from other teams. It's like, this is the time to strike when the iron's hot, because you can go out and add anybody to this team that you need, that you feel like your foundation, I feel, is so strong with SGA and J-Dub and Chet. You've got it. Like, obviously, some things are going to get a little bit weird in the future when all of these guys are on bigger contracts and they got to get paid because they're all so talented. That's when I feel like some of the maneuvering and the pieces and the moves are going to get more important. But now's the time where that's not a factor. The salary issues aren't an issue, and I would be aggressive. And also, I mean, those guys are on great contracts, too. That's also what makes them so appealing.
Absolutely. Cam's making $20 million a year. Trey's making like $25 million next year. And then it goes up
name
to
2 more perfect players to fit in here, man.
LeBron, Kevin Durant. But you didn't think I could. I'm too quick, Logan. You got to try to keep up with me. No, it's true.
Let's get Wemby. Yeah, man. Let's get Cooper Flag.
Cooper Flag, Bronny. Now that's a freaking super team. You get Bronny in there?
One more, dude. Maui has an addiction to donating to the Nerd Sesh Foundation. I love you, Maui.
Nice. J-Dub iHeart pick and roll is easy bucket. iHeart screens. iHeart screens are fantastic.
For real.
Fantastic. And that's maybe his biggest value. And then, I mean, obviously his playmaking and rebounding value we've seen in the last couple games too. I think iHeart, again, has played well in his minutes. He and Chet are just not as effective when they are simultaneously out there together. And I think that OKC's path to winning this series starts with dominant defense in game 7. That starts with Chet playing at the 5, mostly with iHeart off the floor. We're going to wrap this puppy up now. Appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. This postseason has been so much fun. This season has been so much fun, and I can't believe it's all coming to an end very soon. I'll shed it here, but we got one more big game. We will see you guys here Sunday. Every last one of you I'm expecting in here, and we're going to have a high old time, regardless of who wins. It'll be well-deserved. I am going with the Thunder, as is Logan. If you want to see more of our content, you can find it all across our YouTube channel, all of our full episodes, post-game live streams, and our video essays and video breakdowns. You can also listen to all of our episodes across all audio platforms. You can also follow us across social, TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh and Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. Maui, one more donation. You're too kind. Y'all are the goats, and Carson tweets. I do tweet. Thank you, Maui. You're the GOAT. And you guys can follow me on Twitter, but you have to figure out what my handle is. I'm not going to tell you. You can also join our Discord if you want. That is linked at the link tree across all of our social media bios. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
and this was Nerd Sesh.